billions in education grants released. What it means for schools. The Education Department is set to release billions of dollars in previously withheld grant funding for schools, a move that has significant implications for adult literacy, English language instruction, and various educational programs. This announcement was made on July 25, 2025, amidst ongoing discussions about the allocation of educational resources under the Trump administration. Initially, over $6 billion in funding was frozen on July 1st as part of a review process aimed at ensuring that expenditures aligned with the administration's priorities. This funding freeze faced considerable backlash, leading to multiple lawsuits from educators and bipartisan members of Congress who urged the administration to release the essential funds that schools depend on for a variety of programs. Notably, Congress had already allocated this money in a bill signed by President Trump earlier this year. A senior official from the administration confirmed that the funds would be released, stating that guardrails are in place to ensure these funds will not be used in violation of executive orders or administration policy. Furthermore, a spokesperson from the Department of Education indicated that the Office of Management and Budget had completed its review and the disbursement of funds would commence the following week. In a prior announcement, the department revealed that it would allocate $1.3 billion specifically for after-school and summer programs. Without this funding, many school districts and nonprofit organizations, including the YMCA and Boys and Girls Club of America, warned that they would be forced to either close or significantly reduce their educational offerings in the upcoming fall semester. This decision to release funds came shortly after a group of 10 Republican senators sent a letter urging the administration to distribute the frozen education funds to the states. These senators also advocated for the release of additional funds designated for adult education and English as a second language programs. Among those advocating for the release was Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito from West Virginia, who emphasized that these programs have long enjoyed bipartisan support. She highlighted the importance of after-school and summer programs that enable parents to work while their children continue to learn, as well as classes that equip adults with new skills, thereby benefiting local economies. In the context of withholding the funds, the Office of Management and Budget had previously claimed that some of the programs supported a radical left-wing agenda. In response, the GOP senators expressed their shared concerns, but clarified that they did not believe this was applicable to the funds in question. School superintendents had raised alarms about the potential elimination of academic services if the funding was not released. On Friday, the AASA, an association representing superintendents, expressed gratitude to Congress for their efforts in advocating for the release of these funds. In Harford County, Maryland, a significant portion of the withheld federal funds constituted more than half of the budget for the district's annual summer camp, aimed at children learning English. This funding is crucial for hiring certified teachers who can integrate learning into play for 4 weeks during the summer, helping students maintain their English skills and academic progress. The district serves approximately 1,100 students who are non-natively English speakers, many of whom are U.S.-born children of parents who moved to the area in search of job opportunities, particularly in the local restaurants and warehouses that have emerged over the past few decades northeast of Baltimore. During the academic year, the soon-to-be-released federal funds are allocated for tutoring services for these English learners. On Thursday, the second-to-last day of summer camp, over 350 children filled the second floor of Bel Air High School. Young learners eagerly gathered around an alphabet wheel, excitedly pressing buttons to identify foods that began with each letter from A to Z. Meanwhile, middle school students observed a robotics team demonstration, with some shyly raising their hands to express interest in joining. High school student volunteers, many of whom had once been campers learning English themselves, assisted the younger children with various art projects. Breaking. Trump administration releases $6 billion in frozen education funds. What you need to know. Imagine a country where education funding is held hostage, leaving millions of students and teachers in limbo. This was the harsh reality earlier this month when the Trump administration froze roughly $6 billion in education programming, sparking widespread outrage and concern. But here's where it gets controversial. The administration has now announced that it will release the funds, according to a Department of Education spokesperson. This move comes after intense pressure from advocacy groups, lawmakers, and educators who argued that the delay would have devastating consequences for schools and students. The funding, which includes programs for English language acquisition, teacher development, and adult education, will be released starting the week of Monday, July 28, 2025. State education agencies in Nebraska, Mississippi, Rhode Island, and Utah have already confirmed that they have received notifications from the U.S. Department of Education. The letter sent to states emphasizes that they must comply with federal laws, Office of Management and Budget Regulations, and presidential executive orders when utilizing the funds. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon hinted at the release in an interview with ABC News, stating that the administration wants to ensure the right focus on student education. The congressionally authorized funding was initially put on hold to review whether programs were misusing government funds to promote a radical left-wing agenda. Advocacy groups have welcomed the decision, with Sky Perryman, president and CEO of Democracy Forward, calling it a major victory for public education. However, some groups have expressed concerns over the delay and its potential impact on FY 2026 funding. National Parents Union President Carrie Rodriguez celebrated the win, but also criticized lawmakers for allowing the chaos to unfold. Montserrat Gaibay, advocacy chair for the National Association for Bilingual Education, emphasized the importance of Title III funding, which supports English learners, but noted that next year's funding is still uncertain. The release of the funds comes after several Republican senators urged the Trump administration to reverse its decision, and a coalition of school districts and advocacy groups sued the administration over the funding freeze. As the school year begins, it remains unclear how soon states will receive the additional education funding. This raises important questions. What does this mean for the future of education funding? And how can we ensure that our schools and students receive the resources they need to thrive? We want to hear from you. Do you think the Trump administration made the right decision in releasing the funds? Or do you think it's too little, too late? Breaking news. $5 billion in frozen education grants released by U.S. Department. Imagine a school district left in the lurch, scrambling to fund teacher training or after-school programs just weeks before the school year starts. That's exactly what happened when the Trump administration froze over $5 billion in federal education grants in late June. But here's where it gets controversial. The decision to withhold these funds came just one day before the traditional July 1st deadline for disbursement, leaving states and districts in a panic. Now, after months of political pressure and lawsuits, the Education Department is finally releasing the money. But the story doesn't end there. And this is the part most people miss. The funds in question weren't just any grants. They included critical programs like professional development for educators, support for English language learners, and services for migrant students. One of the largest pots, $2.2 billion, was specifically earmarked for teacher training, a lifeline for schools trying to keep educators up to date with modern teaching methods. Tara Thomas of the School Superintendents Association put it plainly. At the end of the day, it's really just funding that makes teachers better at their jobs. But here's the twist. This wasn't an isolated move. The Trump administration's proposed FY 2026 budget actually aimed to eliminate these very grants entirely, sparking outrage from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Democrats and Republicans alike lobbied aggressively for the funds release, citing the financial strain on states and communities. Some states even took the administration to court, arguing that the freeze violated federal law. Now, with the Office of Management and Budget ordering the funds release, the Education Department is set to start dispersing money next week, but the controversy lingers. Critics argue that the delay itself caused irreversible harm, while supporters claim the review process was necessary to ensure proper allocation. And this raises a question. Should federal education funding be tied to political agendas, or should it be a nonpartisan priority? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think this move will have a lasting impact on education funding, or is it just a temporary fix? Share your perspective in the comments below.